Yu-wai, who is an assistant professor in political science at the University of Hong Kong. Good to see you. I've just been speaking to Caroline Malona, who is there for us in Hong Kong too. She mentioned that so many universities are being affected, hospitals, schools closed. First of all, how has your university been affected, before we go into other details?
In line with what Caroline suggested, my university definitely has the class cancelled today. And we also have just announced that the classes of this week will be suspended and until further notice. And they are definitely encouraging more flexible mode of learning. And one point I have to add is that really disrupt normal learning and polarize the different groups of students. Especially the local groups and the mainland Chinese group and the overseas students are obviously so alerted of the local developments.
It really is incredible to hear. You know, when we talk about paralysis, we see what's happening with the demonstrations, but then we hear, you know, from you directly. Where does this stop? How do we get out of this deadlock? Because, as Caroline mentioned, even hospitals are being obstructed, and children not being able to go to school. Terrible.
I have to correct that the public hospital, most of the public hospital remain very much accessible to the emergency staff and ambulance. But I would say transportation early this morning has been pretty much paralyzed. And how does it going to end? When does it going to end? I don't see any exit point, especially yesterday, and especially since I spoke to you on Monday, there was a marked escalation across the city, not just in districts we have traditionally see the protests, but also in the financial districts and in many other primarily residential districts. And all of these protests were sporadic, small group, but pretty much hard to diffuse. And there would be rocky weekend ahead for this week at least.
And do you think that there is still a political motivation to these protests? Or has that disappeared now after 5 months?
This week is pretty much special, especially we're seeing an everyday regular protest coming up. So whether the political agenda remain the same, I would say across the 5 big demands of the protest, the original protest at least, the first one was met by withdrawal of the bill. But the other few, I guess now the common consensus of most of these protesters have been to at least hold the police actions to some forms of accountability, at least some kinds of independent inquiry or commission. So those are the demands. Politically, definitely, they call for universal suffrage and withdrawal of the rioter labels. I would say politically that would not be feasible, at least under the current administration.
Yu-wai from the University of Hong Kong, it's been great to speak to you once again this week on the NewsHour. Thanks for your time.